Welcome to the next episode of our little podcast Beyond Tennis, where we try to discuss mostly the mental aspect of the tennis game. I'm Ladislav Schwarz, and I'm talking to with Martin Blaho. So, hi, Martin.
Hi, Elijah. So I'm looking forward to the questions. What you got?
Yeah, me too. So, I was thinking about today's episode, and usually we have three questions, but now I wanted to have it as a topic, and the topic is emotions. And I would like to maybe put it into three categories, like emotions from the player's perspective, like to discuss how to deal with them, and also maybe more importantly, how to prepare, like not to be that emotional. Then maybe from the coach's perspective, like how to help the players to not to get too much emotional and maybe then help them just a little bit. I know that's the topic is very like like bright and or large, and it's not that easy, so we're not gonna fix the problem in one talk, but maybe just some quick tips, and also just quick tips for the parents, because the parents are also asking me now. In Slovakia and all across Europe, we have a lot of tournaments, and the parents are always asking me for advice how to help their children, how they can help their children maybe deal a little bit better with the emotions. So yeah, we can start with the player, and maybe I have a little story as I usually do. When I was practicing today with my son, and he told me uh, he told me his view. Like we were playing few games, and he was losing 2-1, and he was already very emotional and screaming. And then he throw a racket, and then he somehow calmed down, and then he started to play well, and then he got back. And I asked him about the incident, and because I didn't want to tell him during the practice, but after the practice he told me like he felt that he became so emotional that he felt like his mind somehow um like he said that it was like his soul wasn't there, and when he threw the racket, somehow he just realized that somehow the awareness came back, and the soul, he said that his soul came back, and he was like, what am I doing? It's practice. Nobody cares. I have a tournament tomorrow. I just need to practice something for the tournament. And then it was okay. But until then, he was like overwhelmed with the emotions. So I was just wondering, I mean, what is happening there? And that was just one example. I mean, it's very bright range of the emotions. So what do you think?
I mean, obviously, there's again, as I usually say, there's many things that can be happening, but one that kind of comes to me now is it's interesting what you said about his experience of like feeling like using his words that the soul wasn't there and that it came back. The way I work and like the way I a lot of times look at people and there's this idea of fragmentation, meaning what this means is that all of us are kind of we are not just one entity, but there's a lot of parts to ourselves. And I think it's a good way to look at people and ourselves, if we want to understand ourselves better, because we know that we are, different in different situations, and especially we can get triggered emotionally, and then we can become a different. It's like you hear a lot of people say like it was as if it wasn't me, like after an incident or something, like and because it is still them, obviously, but it's like that part of them that was there, they feel like that's not who they are most of the time, because it's some part of them that they suppress, and it's just not there on a daily basis. So it sounds like something similar where he, in the moment of being angry and there was some part of him that was present, that was triggered by, and that would be, to have a longer conversation with him of like what triggered that him to go into that state, into that part of himself. Um, that was angry, and that he felt that this other part of himself, which he calls the soul, because that we could say like that's just another part of self that he gave this name. Um, so it's not like a objectively his soul and everyone's soul, like for somebody else would say a different part or have a different name, right? But for him, it was this part that wasn't present, let's say, and those two parts can't coexist for him, let's say. So in this moment, and for some reason, when he threw the racket, what happened was that it's I'm just a hypothesis here, but I think what happened was that he somehow accepted that part of himself, like he kind of accepted this part that was angry and needed to somehow express itself. And the moment he expressed that part, it actually it's interesting, right? Because we try to not give space to that part for some reason, because we think, a lot of times like it's not okay. But the moment we let it express, it actually like calms down, or it kind of gives space to other parts to be there. Because so in his case, he felt like that soul part kind of came back, and he was more thinking like, oh, what's happening? It's just a training. So he got more perspective.
Yeah.
In other words, like he had more perspective, because when I was angry, it's like we know all of this. We know that when we're angry, it's hard to have perspective in this moment, because you're in this state of mind that you're super fixated on something that triggered you. And the way to think about these different parts is interesting. You can think about like each part has their own personality almost, like their own thoughts, own desires, own fears, etc. So on the own self-talk. So for example, when you're in this angry mode, maybe the self-talk is more, there's something that's repeating in the mind. Like, for example, it can be whatever, you're so stupid, or why did you miss that ball? Why did you miss that ball? Why did you miss that ball? It just keeps going. How can you play like this? What are you doing? All different kind of things that can be causing the anger. And because you're angry, you even more repeating, then you get on the loop.
Yeah.
Get on the loop of this thinking and feeling. So the thoughts are driving the emotions, and the emotions are creating even more thoughts of the same flavor, let's say. And you're stuck in this loop until, so you're in a trance, let's say you're in this trance of this emotion. And then basically what I'm guessing happened is when he threw the racket, it's kind of like he broke his own trance. So it was like something that was so different that happened that suddenly it threw him out of that hypnosis, that trance of that emotion of thinking and feeling something. It was like, oh, wait, uh, you know. So part of it is accepting it and expressing it. Part of it is that the action itself was maybe something so big that he doesn't do usually. So it suddenly changed his state by doing something different with the action. That can be, somebody like screaming, but it can be also like breathing, changing your breathing pattern, or you can change your states in different ways. Uh, but I talked about it before, is in terms of accepting the emotion, expressing, and realizing there are these different parts, and working with these parts. So kind of knowing which parts of you are there usually present in a match or in a training, like which modes do you have? Because a lot of times, usually when you think about it, you realize you only have, like, there's not that many. You will see you only, maybe you have two, three, four modes. Like you have the mode when you really fully believe in yourself, everything's going well, you're in the flow, you're confident. Is then you have the mode that's maybe more anxious and stressed and nervous. You have maybe the mode that's more like like angry and like self-critical. Like those are the common three, I would say, the anger and the fear and the kind of confident, like feeling sure of yourself. You might have the mode which is kind of like arrogant, let's say, which is like overly confident and feeling like delusional, like everything's gonna be fine, like um which is a lot of times actually just masking the fear. Which is a lot of times just the mode that's kind of helping to not feel the stress. But now I'm just making it more complicated. But kind of figure out so which parts are there and which parts, and then figure out the triggers, and what the different parts need is kind of the work I do also with players.
Yeah. And if I know that it's not easy and there are a lot of things, but if we would give some tips for the players, like if it's more from the expectation they have for the match, if it's more from the um, if they feel confident or not that confident, or if it's like over motivated or doesn't care that much. Probably everyone's different, but what would you say, like to how to prepare for the match, maybe not to get too emotional or to have the like plan, like if I get emotional I will do this.
Yeah, it's like you said, I don't think there is a one general thing. Like everyone's different. I think the only general thing is what I already said, is that just the awareness that different parts of me are there, and kind of getting to know them, like what they are. Feeling like which parts are the most present, which parts, like which part of me, like which state do I want to be in, and figure out kind of like, okay, how can I get into that state before a match? What is the feeling and the thinking and the doing. These are kind of the three, that to create a state, like an emotional state, you have the thinking, feeling, and doing. So either you do something like an action, a behavior, or this, and then plus you have the feeling, so you have a certain feeling, and you have a thinking, so you're thinking certain thoughts, like some thought patterns, whether you like the self-talk, what are you telling yourself? Um, so you want to figure out like what are the things you say to yourself when you're feeling ready and you're in that state when you play well. And everyone's different, there are players who play really well when they're super calm on the inside and some other people play well when they're like a little bit angry and it helps them. Some people play when they're just like a little bit nervous, like you have to figure out in which state do you play your best, and then figure out, okay, what am I saying to myself when I'm in that state? How am I feeling? How am I feeling in the body? Where is the feeling in the body, for example, located? Just like where do I feel that's coming from in the body? And I kind of connect to that place. For example, what do I do? What do I do with my body? Do I move a lot? Do I just sit down and stay calm? How much energy in the body do I need? Do I need to be super, like we see Rafa, like being super energetic before matches and jumping, and then we see Roger who is just more chilling. So we kind of see how it differs so much who wants to be in what. And we see players who are listening to music before the match, and all of them probably different kind of music. So everyone likes something else. So what I would tell players is like explore, just be aware of, okay, and deconstruct the wins. Like the thing what we don't do enough is like we focus always on the losses and we try to analyze the losses, but very rarely we actually analyze the wins.
Mm.
Like, okay, like you played really well. Okay, what did we do? What happened there? Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, we a lot of times what we don't do well is that we only analyze the losses. Um and then when we win, we celebrate, we feel good, and when we move on. But it's kind of the good saying I heard once is you know, if you want to be healthy, if we want to like the medicine, like if we want to be healthy, why are we studying the sick people?
Mm.
So that's the kind of thing is if you want to be winning, you should be studying your wins. Like what did you do well in those matches? And then try to do that again. Like how did you prepare for those matches? How did you feel going in? You know, like um I think that would be my advice. It's like be aware there's more parts of you emotionally. Which part is the part that kind of you want to be in? Which state do you want to be in? And you've done it before many times. So think back to those times when it happened and try to find like rehearse that in your mind, bring it back. Even just thinking back to those times will help because just that puts you into that state. You know, think about the times when you won and feel how you felt there, how you were thinking, how you were walking, how you were playing, and just try to repeat that.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I believe also when I hear Yannick Sinner talk about his matches or before the finals, I always wonder how amazing it is that he always says like it's just in the end of the day it's just another tennis match. And
Hmm.
I'm just a guy from the small village who just likes to play tennis and who is obviously very good at what he's doing. But like you can see that always also already from the beginning he's like not that attached to the title. Of course he wants to win it and the stakes are the biggest because he loses from the match point on the Roland Garros and then he beats Alcaraz the final of the Wimbledon and his first title and he's playing for history. But still for him it's just another tennis match. And maybe other players they are playing first round of the tournament as a matter of life and death, which is also interesting.
Yeah, I think we can disconnect the psychology from the level also of playing. You know, like there's a concept like self-esteem, like in psychology, for example, like self-esteem and confidence are, let's say, very related. And self-esteem basically is like how do you see yourself in terms of your skills and qualities. So how do you assess yourself of how good you are? And you know, like someone like Sinner, for example, like if you feel like you have the level,
Mm,
um, it also helps you kind of know that, okay, if it doesn't happen today, it might happen next time. So it's easier to kind of be like, okay, it's just another tennis match because for him, some part of him also believes that like it's just another Wimbledon final because I'll be in plenty more Wimbledon finals because he just knows that he has the level as compared to someone who's like doesn't feel that way exactly and might be like, oh, like you know, I think that was the back in the day that was the main difference between Roddick and Federer. Like how, you know, like Roddick lost few Wimbledon finals to Federer. And I think that was one of I would say that mentally probably was one of the biggest differences where like for Roddick it was at the time it was something like this is my shot to get that Wimbledon. And for Federer was like it's another Wimbledon I can win. You know, it's like in the back of his mind, like so we can't really disconnect of like how you see yourself as like how good you are to, but then it brings up the question of okay, who do you measure against, right? So now we're talking about Sinner and stuff, but that's like extreme. But when for like a normal junior player or like a futures player or stuff like that, I think it's so important to kind of set those goals step by step and kind of measure themselves to where they are and kind of believe that they can win the tournament where which they're playing and recognize that that's what rankings are for, because if they couldn't, they wouldn't be in the tournament. Like that's literally what rankings are for. It's just like in chess you have the elo or whatever. Like it's set up in a way that like if you're there, that means you're able to win it because the other players that are there are around the same level.
Yeah.
And then once you win it or play good enough, then it shows you that you can actually go to better tournaments because it shows that your level is too good for those events. So I think a lot of times I see this with young players. We think too much into like, you know, think too far ahead of like what I can do or cannot do, but you have to kind of compare yourself where you are, but at the same time, and we had this conversation the other day, the two of us, not get stuck there, right? Like always like push those boundaries and realize, okay, where your level is, and maybe you're too good for where you are, and you need to like be pushing and trying like better tournaments or higher events to see, and always test yourself where you are, but always believe you can get better. Because I think there's this notion also that we have in tennis is like this feeling like this is just how good I am. Like we don't give enough credit to like how much better you can get if you put in the work. Like it's very easy to get stuck in like this is more or less where I am in the group, you know. Um, and then you get stuck there.
Yeah.
Like
Also,
I was just watching the podcast, right, with the with Talon Griekspoor. Uh we were talking about that, right? Where he got into the top 100, but like in like 9 years.
yeah.
So, and he was climbing up all the time. Like he started like 1,400. It was like 700, 500, 400, 200. Like literally it took him 7, 8 years to get into the top 100. So it's not that you can't get better. Um, but somehow I see that a lot. Like a lot of people have a very fixed kind of idea of themselves. Like this is just how good I am.
Yeah.
and and then they get worried about like, okay, what if I don't make it because like clearly I'm not good enough to be there. Well, clearly you're not, but that doesn't mean that cannot change, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, uh, on the other side, there's also the thing like, okay, I feel already that I'm quite good because I may be beating guys in the practices, or I'm having some kind of results, and then I go to I want to prove to myself and to prove to everybody, and that also creates a bit of pressure, which is also not that easy. But probably just to play the tournaments, it will show, because sometimes if it's just one chance and one shot, like you said, then it can be overwhelming.
Yeah. And the big I mean, I've been watching quite a lot of the tennis podcast lately, and one thing I definitely see what they talk about is that the best players have something they can rely on, like whether it's a serve or a forehand, or they have some aspect of their, because we know that and that doesn't matter if it's junior level or which level it is. Like if you want to be at the top, you have to perform consistently. It's not just you have one result or something, but it's the players who can like every week get a pretty good result. They're the ones that are climbing up. And the consistency comes from the fact that you have some sort of like stability in your game, that this is what I know, what I'm good at, and I can do it every week, whatever it is. And with that comes also the confidence of like, I know what I know. You know, some days I'm doing better, some days a little bit worse, but it's pretty stable, this game I have. For some people, it's a big serve. Some people, it's like they can hit a good whatever winners down the line on the back end, like when they have a chance. For others, it's like rushing the net and have a good volley. People are different, but the only the players that kind of found that thing that's theirs and they stick to it, because you see a lot of times a lot of players are kind of changing and adapting too much to the opponent and to the occasion, and they don't develop that thing that's theirs. Like, what is your game? Like, who are you as a player, that you know who you are. Like, this is what I know going in. I don't care who it is, and I can do it over and over and over again. Because that's what builds the belief.
Yeah.
Because when you believe that, it's like it happens at the same time, right? On one hand, you believe that, so you do it over and over again. But by doing it over and over again, trying it, you also get even better at it, which then again reinforces that belief that I can do it, right? So
Yeah. It's compounding then.
it's compounding. Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So let's go maybe to the coaches, uh, and maybe also before the matches, but maybe more in-game coaching. Like I remember I was coached by also Emil Mischke, who was very good at like recognizing my state and to shift me both directions. Like if I needed to get a little bit to relax and to get calmer, he can like sense it and he gave me the signals to okay, uh, relax, it's okay, it's fine, it's gonna be okay. What are we playing for? Like these kind of things. Or just on the other side, like okay, I know you messed up, but now it's your turn. Now you're gonna like raise your level. Like he could really like like feel what the player needs and then give it to him. And I was also wondering like what can I do when the player gets too angry, too stressful, or just the pressure or choking or whatever, like how to help them during the match.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it starts before, of
Yeah.
course. Like the starts with the what kind of relationship you develop with the player, first of all. So that's like a day-to-day work. And now we're talking about coaches, but it doesn't matter if it's a coach or a parent. When it comes to we're talking about emotional support, then it doesn't matter. Um, but there was the mutual friend of ours when we were having the call. You remember he was talking about these swimmers who swim like these long distances. Um, and they usually have like a support boat that's like right next to them. And there's like a person who's like their role is just to like be there and just keep eye contact with the person who's swimming. And talking about the interview that the guy who's now doing it on the boat for the swimmers, how he used to be the swimmer, and he explained like how he knows how important that is, that feeling that someone's there with you. And that's the role, I think, of the coach or of the parent, um, to have that kind of stability there, that you feel on the court, you don't feel alone on the court. That's the number one support system. Because all of us that play tennis, like, you can feel very lonely if you feel like you can't do anything about it, you're losing and there's no one there to kind of be in your corner. They can feel very kind of lonely of like, I'm all alone, like in this situation. Um, so I think the number one thing there is that the parent or the coach, what we see with the pros is like they're very present. So they work on their like, I'm not distracted. I'm like very present. I maintain eye contact. Like if the point ends and the player looks at me, just like with the guy on the boat, like I'm there. Like every time they look at me, we make eye contact. They don't see me like being distracted or whatever. If that's my role. And you can, talk about that when it's like a parent, it's obviously that's not their job. They don't have to do that, but they can maybe, if it's only them, there's no coach, maybe they can ask the kid if that's what the kid wants. Maybe if the kid wants that, they can take on that responsibility of like, okay, I'm your person here, so I'll be there. Um, so I think that's very important that they're at least one person if they're there, or it's better than to not be there. Like if you're gonna be just not looking or not being present, like rather don't watch. If I mean if you're the only one there. If it's, for example, a situation where there's also parents, there's also a coach, it's not that big a deal because maybe the parents are distracted or whatever, but the coach is like the person who's the one maintaining that eye contact. Um, so I think that support is so important. And when you talk about in-game coaching, I think it depends on what Emil, like you said, did really well, like sensing, okay, the momentum of the match. Um, the main thing you can sense is kind of the energy of the player. Like, is the energy kind of the easiest indicator you can see? Like, is it too anxious, like too much energy, but in like a very kind of tense way, which you can see a lot of players who are like, come on, let's go, but they're tight. Or you see the other when they're kind of like giving up, like the like too low energy.
Yeah.
And usually what you want to do is you want to counteract that the opposite way, right? So if you see someone who's getting down themselves, you want to kind of give them that like, let's go, like boost of energy. And the opposite is when you see someone like too much, then you can say, okay, like slow it down here, take your time, like um but obviously this is like a you know this is like a depends on the situation. There's no
Yeah.
But the only thing I can think of is kind of you can check for these two extremes. But the support is the main thing that they don't feel alone. Um, Other than that, what can help is a lot of times what a lot of people don't do when it comes to emotions in general, not just in tennis but anywhere, is kind of validating the emotions. So one thing that, for example, Greek Sport on the podcast talked about how like his physio like tells him that like I'm nervous myself just sitting here, so I can't imagine how you feel on the court. So like I want you to be emotional. I understand that there's a lot of pressure on you, and that's great because that's exactly validating the emotions. A lot of people are kind of thinking like I have to calm him down or like I have to tell her something to calm her down because it's again too emotional, so I have to stop the emotion. Where a lot of times what you want to hear first is validating the emotion. Is like, hey, I understand you're angry, or like I know it's hard. I understand, like I know you're sad. Like those are the sentences that kind of you wanna use to first validate the emotion, and then you can kind of have a call to action of like, let's go, or it's gonna be okay, or whatever. Because someone's angry and you just try to calm them down, like you know how that goes.
Mm.
Yeah. Or if someone's sad and you try to tell them it's okay, it's like it's not okay. So you
Yeah.
respect you respect how they feel. You don't try to change how they feel. You respect how they feel, and then you provide encouragement afterwards because when you respect how they feel, when you validate how they feel, that gives that little like opening. They come out of that bubble, that emotion a lot of times a little bit. And when you see that they come out of it a little bit, then you can say something. Because if you say something when they're emotional, it's
Mm.
it's it's not gonna go anywhere.
Mm. And I liked the other day what you told me, like from for the coaches or from the coaches' perspective, that try to take it like professionally and don't like mix it with emotions. Like, okay, we have a next tennis match, we have a next opponent. The opponent serves like this, plays forehand, backhand like this,
Yeah.
likes to attack, likes to be defensive. That's it. And the thing like, okay, you gonna be fine. You beat him easily, or oh, it's gonna be tough. Maybe it's you don't win today or whatever. It's just addition or additional what is not helping that much,
Yeah.
or you just go to the emotional stuff which is not necessary. And if you just stick to the task at hand, then he knows what to do. Maybe he never gets emotional and he just does the job, and that's it. And you
Yeah.
don't need to go to the additional stuff.
Yeah, especially if that's not what your kind of expertise is, or like not everybody is emotionally attuned
Yeah,
to kind of have the feeling of, okay, what this person needs now emotionally from
yeah,
me,
yeah,
and then it's better to rather, I mean, obviously the best is to work on that and become more emotionally attuned so you can, but if you don't, then yeah, like you can demand professionalism from the player. So you can say, hey, we're professionals here. There's emotions are gonna happen. I understand. You can be emotional, but we have a plan. I want you to execute the plan, even with emotions. So so you see how there I'm still validating the emotions. I'm not saying don't be emotional.
hmm
Um, it's accepting that okay, emotions happen. You're a human. I get it. It's we all have emotions. It's fine. But this is what we discussed. This is the plan. Just do what you need to do.
yeah.
So that
And
that's what you and that's what you can repeat in the match also when so you say that before the match, like you develop a clear plan before the match, and then in the match if the person gets emotional or something, you just say like, hey, like stick to the plan, like you
yeah.
go back to the plan. We know what you have to do.
Yeah. And paradoxically, if you stick to the plan, you're not gonna get probably that emotional. Like then on the other side, when you don't know what to do, you probably just stick with the win. I want to win. That's it. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Then it can get more and more emotional. And I also said the story, and I was always like all my life, I'm wondering about Miroslav Mečir. Like what is this thing that he was so special, and what is the thing that 99% of the people doesn't have? And when we spoke about the emotions, that was for me like eye opener a little bit, because I remember when I talked to him that he was always only on the tactical or technical things. Like he was always like telling me what he sees, like what I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
And also always like when you concentrate on the task at hand, like when you really, by his words, when you just pulling the strings, like okay, now I have to do this, then I have to do this. If I play to his backhand, how to play to his backhand, and you are so concentrated that it's like emotionless. And my answer was always to him like, okay, Miroslav, I understand what you mean, but only when I'm not emotional, only when I'm confident, only when I'm feeling the ball, I can do what you're telling me. And he was like, but it's the other way around. If you start to doing the things, you gonna feel good, and you gonna feel the ball, you're gonna
Yeah.
feel, and you're not gonna be emotional. So that was like, yeah, interesting.
I mean, look, it's it totally makes sense because it's like if you don't know what you're doing, you're in chaos.
Yeah,
Like it's in any situation. Like if especially if it's a situation where you also feel like you should be winning, or like you should be, so that's it's like it's like imagine I tell you to build a airplane, and I tell you you have to do it in 1 year or 1 month. Like how will you feel? You also be like so much pressure and this, and I don't know what I'm doing because so it's kind of that going back to my point at the beginning is like so many players don't have a plan. Like they don't know what they're good at. No one ever explained to them like then don't think about like what is my best shot, what is my worst shot, what is my best serve, where do I want to serve? Like it would be actually I would love to do like a survey, like futures or something. That would be super interesting actually. Like I would love to go to futures tournaments and actually ask players of like TC percentage, like how many of them actually have a plan when they go on the court. Like how many of them actually have like they've thought about like what am I gonna play?
Mm,
And how many of them just go on the court and are like, let's see what happens today. And I would guess it's a pretty big percentage that just kind of go like I hope I play I hope I feel the ball today.
mm,
You know, like asking the questions like what is your best serve? Like what and to be honest, like I think if you ask them, probably most of them will actually know the answer. Like most of them will actually be able to tell you, but they're not thinking about that before they go on the court. That's the difference. Because it's in there, like it's not that they don't know, but they're not consciously aware of it when they step on the court and start to play, potentially. I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe I'm being
mm.
critical, but a lot of players I met is like you talk to people and they just don't no one ever talked to them about that. It's too much emphasis on technique, too much like looking at like which I mean technique is also important, but in the training, in the tournament, in the competition, it's like it's all tactical and mental. But like you said, it's those are very connected. If you know what you're doing tactically, you're also confident because you have a plan. And some plan is better than no plan because that gives you at least some confidence of like, okay, I'm gonna try this. And if it doesn't work, you can adjust. But at least like you're starting somewhere, so you can adjust from something. But if you're starting with nothing, then you don't even know how to adjust because it's too complex.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
I
I
think
remember.
I think simplifying it down helps. Like you make it more simple, like going into matches when you have a strategy. Because otherwise it's too much, it's too complex. It's too much complexity. And because it's so much
Mm,
complexity, it's overwhelming on the system. It's like I don't know. Plus, you have to run, you have to be physically fit. Plus, there is sun and heat and all that stuff. So for the nervous system, all of that becomes too much. So you have to simplify it into smaller steps of like, okay, now I need to hold serve. How do I hold serve? Okay, I use my best serve. Which one is my best serve? Okay, this one. Or like which return he doesn't like? Okay, this one. So I'm just going there and just simple. We have to keep it simple. Like the more complicated you make it, the more you get emotionally overwhelmed.
yeah, yeah, and we are again at your phrase, more involved, less attached. And I was thinking about it like yesterday. We just went for the walk with my wife, and we were already coming back home, and I realized that there were bricks like on the sidewalk, and I was like, I didn't want to step. We were just talking. I didn't want to step on the line, so I was just putting the one leg in front of the other, and I was so in the present moment and so relaxed. And then I just looked where we are and how far is it to go home, because we were quite far, and I was like, ooh, that's far. And I got like a little bit like not stressed, but you know what I mean. Then I came back to the one step at a time, and
Hmm.
I got relaxed, and I felt like I'm enjoying the walk and I'm enjoying the conversation, and it's beautiful. And then again, I was switching between attachment and involvement, and it was just interesting how it works. So yeah, it was interesting.
Interesting. I love the story from Will Smith, the actor. I was reading his autobiography and how he talked about that like when he was a young kid, like his father had them, like him and his brother had to build a wall, like in the house somewhere, and they were taking like 7 months or something, and every day they were like working on it, like no matter what weather, no matter what was happening every day. And he was making sure, the father, that every brick they had to lay perfectly on the wall. And then after, all this time, they finally built the wall. And Will Smith talks about how that taught him this lesson of like brick by brick. Like you just if you just focus on one brick at a time to do it really well, over time you can do huge things. Um, so I think in tennis, that's what helps so much. What I say, you break it down into the pieces of like, okay, I have to hold serve. Okay,
Yeah.
how do I serve? That's I'm gonna return now. Okay, where does he like to serve? And then when I'm in the rally, do I play more forehand or backhand? Like super simple. The and you just start there. Like you just pick only that. Like, okay, like I think the easiest way to start is just like literally say, okay, do I play more into his forehand or backhand? Like that's the simplest kind of first thing. You need to at least have that.
You're
And then
breaking out a little bit.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's better. You broke a little bit down.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm back. So I'm just saying, like, you can just start with like, do I play into his forehand or backhand?
Yeah.
And you don't even have to be sure, because then you become perfectionistic. Like, I'm not sure. It's like doesn't even if you're wrong, even if you're wrong, you're
Yeah.
gonna find out. Like, because you can start like playing only into his forehand, and then you're getting killed. So then you see like, okay, like maybe I just play everything into his backhand now, and maybe. But if you don't have any plan, then you can't even realize that you have guys who don't have a plan. They're just playing into his forehand everything anyway, and they're getting killed, and they don't even know why. Because they didn't have a plan of starting into the forehand. Um, so just start there, forehand or backhand. Just pick a shot and just go for it, or like I play everything cross court. It's like a very like good tactic for somebody who's like, if you're not sure or if you're like stressed, just hit every ball cross court. So it eliminates too much decision making. Like whatever shot ball comes, I'm just hitting cross court everything. That's a good one
Yeah.
for somebody who gets overwhelmed, or at the beginning of the match when you're nervous and stressed and you don't want to add too much like decision making where I want to hit, just do that to find the rhythm to get yourself into the match. And um yeah,
Yeah. And also on the other side, I have one of my tactics always where like um find multiple ways how to win the point. So that when I felt like nothing is working, I said, okay, maybe this rally I start with the spin, the other one I start with the slice,
Mhm.
and then I finish up with the drop shot, or I go to the net. Next time I just play offensively, then I play like whatever happens, but I'm ready. Like the plan is to have no plan. That's also a plan, like
Mhm.
okay, uh, I just return and I will figure out. Like in the moment, it's also in the moment. It's maybe more complicated. It's on the other side of the spectrum, but it's still a plan. So yeah,
Sure. Yeah, I think that's yeah, that just requires you have to let go. That just requires that kind of you trust in your abilities. Uh,
exactly.
and you just kind of let go and you trust in like, okay, I can do this, and you don't overthink.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it works
And
though.
I know that I will figure out in the moment. Like I know that okay, he plays there. Okay, I played there, and I have it here. So I can like finish up the balls. I can slow it down. I can go it faster. So I know that. Yeah.
No, it's what you're saying is super cool, but you're thinking you're at the pretty like high level, and
Mm,
exactly what you mentioned, there's so many dimensions that how
yeah.
you mentioned now, like I'm gonna slow down the ball, I'm gonna speed it up, I'm gonna add
Yeah.
more spin. Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so many parameters you can be playing with.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, which is that's what the best players are so good at, right? That every ball they hit is different, exactly trying to mix it up and don't give any rhythm to the other guy. Um,
yeah,
it's you need amazing ball control for that, and also then that's when it becomes just the decision making. It becomes chess. Like, okay, are you making the right decisions, like in
yeah,
in the moment, and then can you actually execute? Can you actually hit it?
yeah, yeah,
Um, so that's the highest level. But for like the lower level, let's say it's simply what is your best shot and know how to get to that point. Like know what your best shot is, know what your worst shot is, and figure out, okay, in which patterns, what do I have to do to get that shot? And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be just, I don't know, like where do I serve?
yeah,
You start from the beginning. Where do I serve so I can get this shot?
yeah,
And where do I return so I can get this shot? Or where do I stand on the return so I can, find that shot, for example. Um, and just do it over and over again and see.
yeah,
Because then you also know what to practice. Is going back to what I said about like to not have the fixed idea of that I'm not going to get better. Because if you have plan every time, then you also know if it worked or if it didn't work. And if it works, you just keep doing it. And if it didn't work, then you can see what's missing in your game so it can work next time. And then you can go and practice that. And then you're actually practicing something that is like gives you hope that like you realize like, okay, like it's gonna be better next time. Um, because if you don't know what you're practicing and how it connects with the matches, like the practice is not informed by the matches, what we talked about also before, then you kind of just practicing to practice, and then you just kind of hoping you improved, like improved in general. Like you don't even know what that means. Like what are you improving?
yeah,
It's what Rafa said in the interview, right? It's like he said that he never stepped on the court just to practice. Like every time he stepped on the court, he wanted to improve something. And I'm sure that something was very specific, like that he wanted to improve. And that specific thing came from the matches that him and his team analyzed, like there's something that needs to improve. And then but that's how you build confidence because then you actually improve in the training and your mind knows like, okay, next time I go to tournaments, like I can use it now. So I'm getting better.
right. Okay, so you cutting a little bit. So, but I think yeah, we discussed a lot.
Yeah.
So I think it's perfect for today. It was great. So thank you very much, and yeah, see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you. See you next time.
Bye.